Maybe 700 ships carrying 7,000 men would be nearer the mark. Whatever the numbers, this was a vast, efficient, well-organised operation. William recruited troops from all over northern France, well beyond his own duchy, promising them the rewards of the adventure, wealth and power in England. King Harold had deployed his troops on the south coast of England and was waiting for William to attack. But William didn't come. His ships were grounded in France by unfavourable winds. The weeks went by and there was still no sign of the great Norman fleet. As summer turned into autumn, Harold thought that William would not now risk the crossing. The winds were too strong, the sea too rough. Besides, Harold's own provisions were now running low. He sent his men home. England was now open to attack. Just a few days later, the attack came, but not from William. The invasion came from the north, from Scandinavia. The King of Norway, Harald Hardrada, hard ruler, was a ruthless warrior, and he too had his claims on the English throne. Hardrada landed in the north of England with a vast army of Viking warriors. They captured York and defeated the local earls. Harold marched north and took the Norwegian army by surprise on the 25th of September 1066. At the Battle of Stamford Bridge, the invaders were completely defeated. It's said that of the 300 Norwegian ships that had originally landed, only 20 were needed to carry the survivors home. Harald Hardrada was amongst the many dead. The Viking Age was coming to an end. Harold Godwinson was triumphant. But on the other side of the channel, William was still waiting. Waiting didn't come easily to William. You can imagine him staring at the weather vane of the local church, praying for the wind to change. Eventually he turned to the supernatural. He had the body of the local saint, Saint Valery, taken from its tomb and carried in solemn procession through the town. And William's prayers were finally answered. On the night of the 28th of September 1066, the winds changed, and William's fleet sailed the 70 miles to Sussex. A forest of masts, lit up with burning torches, slipped across the channel. The ships looked startlingly like the Viking warships that had brought William's ancestors to Normandy 150 years earlier. But this was no band of pagan pirates on a raid. It was a well-trained, disciplined army of knights coming to take a kingdom. Legend has it that as William jumped ashore, he stumbled and fell. At first, the Normans regarded this as a bad omen. But William immediately leapt up and cried out, "See, I have grasped the land with both hands." The Normans began as they meant to continue.
They built 2 wooden Mott and Bailey castles within a fortnight, one at Hastings and one here at Pevensey. They laid waste to the surrounding countryside, wiping out the locals, burning their houses and killing their animals. Exhausted from doing battle in the north, Harold marched the 200 miles from York to London in just 5 days.
The story goes that Harold's mother begged him to postpone his showdown with William. After all, Harold had the upper hand. He could trap William in Hastings, starve him out and raise new forces. But Harold refused to listen and charged headlong into his next battle. William was just as eager. It said that he was in such a rush to confront Harold that he put his mail coat on back to front. Another bad omen? Not for William. I trust in God. Today you will see a duke changed into a king.
On this hillside, on Saturday the 14th of October 1066, a single battle between a few thousand men permanently changed the course of history in England and beyond. It was said to have taken place at the Grey Apple Tree. Nowadays, the site is known simply as Battle.
The English occupied this ridge, standing shoulder to shoulder, many armed with huge axes. To protect themselves, they overlapped their shields, forming the shield wall. This was the traditional way of fighting, tried and tested over the centuries. Confronting them was something startlingly new in English warfare. The Normans were drawn up in 3 lines. First the archers, then the infantry, then the mounted knights. It's said that William hung around his neck the very saints' relics on which Harold had sworn his oath. With the papal banner fluttering in the breeze, he must have been confident that God and the saints were backing him.
Harold's army was battle-weary and exhausted from the long march south. Fighting began about 9 o'clock in the morning.
Normans charged uphill. The war cries on both sides were soon drowned out by the clash of arms and the shrieks and groans of the wounded and the dying.
Harold's men were packed so densely behind their solid shield wall that the dead were unable to fall. The Normans couldn't break the English line.
The rumour spread amongst the Normans that William had been killed. The men on the left flank panicked and began to rush down the hill. The English above broke ranks and followed them. But William had not been killed. He pushed back his helmet to reveal his face and called out, "I live, and with God's help we'll conquer yet." The Normans immediately rallied turned on the English who were pursuing them and cut them down.
The English line was broken, and the Normans charged in. The Bayeux Tapestry shows all the confusion and desperation of the battle. In the 11th century, it was customary for the bishops to join in, though they were forbidden to shed blood. Here's Bishop Odo, William's half-brother. He's carrying a huge club. That way, he could break a few arms or heads without any bloodshed. Bodies fall in a heap of twisted and broken limbs. The hillside must have been saturated with blood.
Then came the decisive moment, the death of King Harold. 2 early accounts of the battle say that an arrow struck the king in the eye.
The king was dead, and a world was coming to an end.
Harold's body was so mutilated that it couldn't even be found. It was recognised eventually, legend has it, by his mistress, Edith the Swan-Necked, who identified it by certain secret marks known only to her. And along with Harold, Anglo-Saxon England died on this battlefield. One of William's chaplains describes the scene. The flower of English youth, the flower of English nobility, covered the ground far and wide, filthy with their own blood.
It's said that William refused to bury the English dead. They lay rotting for days. He would later relent and build an abbey here as penance for the carnage of the battle. Its altar is said to have been built on the spot where Harold fell.
But in the immediate aftermath of the battle, William felt no remorse. A week after his victory, this bastard descendant of Viking pirates set off on the march to London. He was now William the Conqueror, soon to be William, King of England. The future belonged to the Normans.
In the next episode, Anglo-Saxon Rebellion. The Normans transform English politics and culture. And a new order in Scotland, Wales, and Ireland.
And if you'd like to walk in the steps of the Normans, you can download maps of Norman walks all over the UK at bbc.co.uk/history.
It's a national treasure and the oldest surviving public record. BBC Two explores Norman Britain through Doomsday, Tuesday at 8. Heading to Hastings and the run-up of the Battle of 1066 over on BBC Four now with Dan Snow's Norman Walks.